In the post-World War II world, redevelopment of major cities had become a global trend. The motivation was to turn urban cities from blighted industrial centers to attractive destinations, not only for residential and commercial purposes, but to become tourist destinations. One popular planning area was to develop along waterfronts because of great views and the potential for new buildings and parks. Despite its attempts to revitalize the waterfront through housing and sports stadiums, Cincinnati has failed to follow through on their original plans, and the land originally meant for recreational parks is occupied by parking lots and continuous construction. In 1937, tragedy struck Cincinnati in the form of a flood reminiscent of the biblical tale Noah's Ark. On January 18th, the Ohio River had begun to overflow and spill into downtown Cincinnati. On January 26th, the river rose to its highest point of 80 feet, and it took until February 5th for the initial impact of the flood to subside, but the long-term effects were severe. Nearly a dozen people were killed, and around 100,000 Cincinnati residents were displaced from their urban homes, forced to settle in the surrounding suburbs. Cincinnati's first response was to increase the height of the flood walls, which was completed in the early 1940s. It then provided Cincinnati a platform to consider redeveloping its riverfront in order to provide security from future floods, but also to make living in the Queen City attractive once again. A potential redeveloped riverfront brought along a lot of excitement within Cincinnati, especially the residents of the East End, whose buildings were damaged due to the flood. In 1939, the Cincinnati Planning Commission published a design that proposed the clearance of flooded factories and the construction of a football stadium that would be the center of development. The design also highlighted improvements of major roads and bridges that led to downtown areas and the central business district. Although this was just an idea, it provided some groundwork for future development. In 1944, a bond issue to the city was passed, which provided funding for public improvements that were neglected during the war. In order to use the funds, the Cincinnati Planning Commission created the Metropolitan Master Plan in 1948, which focused on the development of efficient expressways that would connect the outer regions of Cincinnati to the central business district and downtown. The plan called for the clearance of dilapidated housing and warehouses on both the west and east ends to make this possible. In 1962, the Central Riverfront project was approved as an urban renewal project that would receive Capital Improvement Program funding. The project originally spanned from the Chesapeake and Ohio Railway Bridge on the west to the Louisville and Nashville Bridge on the east side of Cincinnati, approximately 80 acres. Riverfront Stadium was key to development on the riverfront. The Cincinnati Reds had been looking for a new home within the city since the flood left its toll on Crosley Field. It wasn't until NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle named the city a finalist for a new franchise that Riverfront Stadium was approved and set for construction in the late 1960s. When the stadium was completed in mid-1970, the original plans from 1962 were set to continue, but they did not continue without controversy. The Riverfront Committee's plans were never 100% guaranteed within their report. The community improvement project funding they received only covered very few fundamental developments the riverfront had proposed. The land would be cleared immediately for its development, parking lots would be retained, and riverfront paths would be created.